Yeah, so my name is Darryl Payne Jr. You said that. And I do a sport called skeleton, which is similar to bobsled. We go down the same icy track at 80, 85 miles an hour. And I kind of basically just got into the sport by running track. I ran track at Baylor for a little bit. And, from there, kind of got pulled into trying out the sport. And it turned out that I had a knack for it. And so I just went from there and kind of grew to love the sport and here I am almost 8 years later, you know, attempting to qualify for my first Olympics. And you said uh, how did my ties to Temple? Basically, I when I first moved to I guess Austin, I probably started working there and training there for maybe 10 years, and then once I got married, my wife actually got her residency up at Baylor Scott and White. And so, now, we live here together, and, I get all my training done and everything still like I was before. And not much has changed except I just moved from Austin to Temple.
Oh, awesome, awesome. That's great. And you mentioned that you ran track at Baylor, which I think is really interesting. Can you kind of walk me through that transition and how you go from running track to doing skeleton and what kind of skills transfer over in that process?
Right. So bobsled and skeleton are sports where we in the United States we don't have programs that start from whenever you're in high school or in college. Like we don't have a college bobsled team anywhere in the U.S. Um, but in the U.S., it's considered crossover sports. And so basically, I was running track at Baylor, and when my time up was there, I moved to Austin, and I had the goal, the dream of running in the 2016 Olympics in Rio. But I quickly realized that those cats are not playing. Once you get to the top, those cats are fast, and so it wasn't really an option for me. And so right when I was about to retire as an athlete and hang up the cleats, I got a call from Team USA saying that they were doing a scouting camp called Next Olympic Hopeful. It was going to be televised, and basically you were trying to win a funded training spot on the bobsled team. There were actually four sports there, so it was rugby, it was track cycling, bobsled, and skeleton. Didn't know what skeleton was. Didn't want to get hit in rugby, so I was like, let me just go do bobsled because I've seen the movie Cool Runnings, right? And so um, did that. Turns out that I was a really good fit because I was explosive and fast and strong, but I was just too small. I'm 5'9" and a half. And at the time I weighed like 155, 160. And they want you to be like 215, 225 pounds because the sport uses gravity and momentum to get you down the hill the fastest. So they said I was just too small, but they invited me to try out for skeleton. And that's kind of, how that happened.
Okay, yeah. And so you mentioned skeleton. So now you're kind of being thrown into skeleton from the bobsled thing. What was kind of your thought process of like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because I'll be the first one to say skeleton looks pretty scary when you're watching it and you're going head first like that. What goes through your mind when you're going down the ice so fast, head first? Is there any thought of like, whoa, I'm going pretty fast now and things like that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of get used to it. It's kind of like going on a roller coaster your first time. You're scared, you're nervous, but you end up having a lot of fun, and you're like back in the line again, running to the back of the line so you don't have to wait as long to get onto the next to your next ride. So I mean, yeah, it was scary at first, even like having not known what it was before I even showed up to the camp and watching some of the veterans and the Olympians go down the hill, down the track. I was still kind of scared. Even going down my very first time from a lower start, you're only going 40 miles an hour at that point. And for me, it felt like 100 miles because my face is so close to the eyes, you're going head first. So yeah, it's scary at first, but honestly, I tell kids this all the time. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to push yourself to being greater, because you have to conquer your fear. And now, I go down without even thinking about it, and more so like thinking about how can I go faster down the hill instead of just going slow. But even I mean, I'd say like the first runs of the season are pretty much get you the most nervous. And maybe if you go to a new track for the first time that has a reputation, like in Whistler, that track has a reputation for being uh, um, fast,
Yeah.
to put it. But yeah, I mean, there are nerves sometimes, but then you also you just get used to it, and it just becomes part of who you are.
hmm And so I was looking on your website, very clean, by the way.
Thank you.
Um, the first Olympic season event for skeleton is November 27th and 28th, and you said that you're in Utah right now. I assume you're training to get ready for these events before the Olympics start. What does the day-to-day look like of your training and what you're doing to get ready for all these events?
Yeah, so it's essentially the same as whenever it was track and field.
hmm
Training is the same as a sprinter. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna do sprints. I'm gonna go into the gym and I'm gonna lift heavy, lift fast. Um, and whenever it comes to sliding, we get 1 to 4 runs per day. And for me, since it's so neurologically taxing, I'm usually only good for 2 runs a day. By the third run, my nervous system is so shot, and I can't hold my head up anymore once I get into the curves with very high G forces and pressures. So so just speaking for me, you only get two runs per day, and it's like you have to get as much information out of those runs as possible. Um, and then leading up to the race, it's whenever you kind of put everything together and slide for your life, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be pretty grueling. I mean, 2 runs a
Yeah.
day. It's especially like you said with the G-force and everything like that. I have one final question for you. It was on your website as well, but if you do qualify for the Olympics, what would it mean to not only qualify, but you would be the first African American man to represent Team USA in skeleton at the Winter Olympics? What would that mean?
Yeah, it's pretty huge for me because I think whenever I first started training for skeleton to make the Olympic team, I kind of just said, I really want to take my gift of athleticism and go as far as I can. And then, as you kind of progress into the sport, you realize there are not very many people who look like you on the skeleton side. On the bobsled side, we're all over the place. But um, it kind of became like, oh, I can be the first black man to do this, and then you start to realize, I maybe I can inspire the youth. And so right now, it's just become my mission to inspire the youth, the black youth, to pursue other sports beyond basketball, track, football, baseball. Like, sure, those sports are very enticing and lucrative if you make it to the league, but not everyone is talented enough to make it there. What I think it's like 1% of high school students will make it to one of those leagues, whereas in winter sports, there's plenty of opportunity for Black youth to get involved. And whether or not money is a barrier, I think that I'll eventually set up some type of support system to get more Black youth into winter sports. So what it means is that, from what it means for me, just to simply put it, is that I can support Black youth, and this is now something that's bigger than me. And in just looking towards the future, I'm excited to get more Black youth involved in winter sports.
And for those black youth and just really just any youth that see your story and are looking up to you and it's like, hey, I can do this. What do you have to say to them?
I have to say that you really can't do anything that you put your mind to. It's just going to take a lot of work. The road won't be easy, but always um, look for resources, and reach out to people like me, and surely there's someone who's willing to help. But giving up just can't be an option.
Yeah. And you had mentioned also that a lot of Olympians are self-funded, and a lot of people don't know that. So where can our viewers go to support you?
Yeah, I mean, fun fact, no Olympian is funded by the government like in other
Oh,
countries. We're all self-funded, unless you have sponsors, that type of deal. But to help me specifically, if you go to my Instagram, Darryl Payne Jr., there's links in the bios where you can make tax-deductible donations and even support me by doing something as simple as paying for one of my training runs, which can be $40 to $50. So.
awesome, awesome, Daryl. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me. Very inspiring story, and I know me, the newsroom, and all of Central Texas is going to be rooting for you to qualify and give us some kind of
Thank you.
representation here in the Winter Olympics.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to represent Central Texas and just the state of Texas in general.